Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. This is week ending April 1st, 2017, and it has been a information-filled week when it comes to Amonkhet. We learned a lot about the mechanics that will be in the set, at least some of them. We now know that cycling is returning. We've learned about the Embalm mechanic, which ties into Zombie Tribal. And because of this information, there's a lot of cards in the secondary market that are starting to spike just due to the fact that they perhaps could become better cards in various formats due to these mechanics coming out within a few weeks now. Having said that, let's get into the actual prices and see what's happening in the market. We're going to start off, as we always do as standard, and look at the top 5 cards that lost value this week. Nothing new here, quite honestly. These are the cards that have been dropping. Two things going on. First off, the meta is about to change drastically, so players don't want to invest in cards that are $15, $20 at this point when you don't know if they're going to see standard play going forward, even if there's a strong possibility many of these still will. Secondly, the other thing that's happening is there's simply a lot of packs being opened of certain sets, and I'm thinking Kaladesh, Aether Revolt, as well as the Battle for Zendikar block have had a lot of packs being opened, so even though these cards are in high demand, there's a really high supply out there for many of them. Coming in number 5 is Nissa, Voice of Zendikar, down 88 cents to $9.99. Coming in number 4 is Torrential Gearhulk, down $1.15 to $16.95. Number 3, Heart of Kirin, down $1.20 to $18. Perfect example of what I was talking about here. I mean, this card is seeing tons of play everywhere in Standard. However, the two factors are really impacting it pretty strongly at this point. There's a lot of copies out there. People are opening a lot of packs of Aether Revolt. And secondly, we don't know the fate of Mardu vehicles. First off, the meta could shift, and it might not be a very powerful deck anymore for all we know. Or perhaps, once we start approaching the Pro Tour, and we get the next banned and restricted list that will come out once Amonkhet does drop, this could be a card that's on the chopping block. We just don't know at this point. Coming in at number 2 is Gideon Alab Zendikar, down $1.47 to $20.69. And number 1, Virtuous Gearhulk, down $1.63 to $13.99. Alright, so what's hot right now in Standard? You're not going to see a lot of big increases here, but you're going to see some interesting indicators. You'll see a couple of cards that have already started to go up in value due to information that we've learned over the last few hours regarding Amonkhet, so that's pretty interesting. Those are definitely cards to keep an eye out on. Secondly, we're going to see some cards influenced here by the modern format as well. Coming in at number 5 is Relentless Dead, up 17 cents to $4.99. Now, this is not a huge increase by any means, but it is a very strong indicator that some players are starting to think about this zombie tribal element that could be happening in Amonkhet, and they're looking to pick this card up. If you can pick these cards up for less than $5, I'd say at this point, it might not be a bad idea just to have them in your back pocket, a play set of them, just in case you need them for a future meta, but it is still really early to tell what's going to happen with the meta, of course. Number 4, the Gitrog Monster, up 18 cents to $1.43. Now, this one is a fan favorite card. A lot of players try to make this work in various ways. It's a really fun card sometimes in Commander. Not very pricey right now, but the fact that it's gone up 18 cents really just in the last 24 hours or so is a testament to the fact that a lot of people are taking the cycling lands that were announced yesterday very seriously. And you'll see a few other cards on today's countdowns that are going up due to the fact that the cycling lands exist or will exist. This is definitely one of them. Again, we don't know what's going to happen. It could absolutely have no impact on Standard at all, but you can get these cards for $1.50. Why not pick up a play set of them just to have, just in case? It's not a huge financial requirement. Number 3 is Splendid Reclamation, up 20 cents to 79 cents. Well, again, speaking of these cycling lands, this has happened just within the last 24 hours or so. This card just started to slide up a little bit. Now, 20 cents isn't a big increase, but when you consider the card is only worth now a total of 79 cents, it's a pretty big percentage increase. It's definitely something you want to pay attention to. And again, if you can pick up a play set of these for like $3.50 or something, at this point, just why not? Coming in at number 2, Collective Brutality, up 24 cents to $9.50. Again, not a huge increase here, mostly because Standard is just really slow right now in the secondary market. However, there is still a modern influence going on. This card sees playing Death Shadow aggro, very, very popular modern deck right now, among others. And coming in at number 1, Traverse the Ulvenwald, up 40 cents to 476. Another card that has seen extensive play in Standard and Modern. We all know it in Standard for 4-color Saheeli as well as Black-Green Delirium. But on top of that, it's also seeing play in those Death Shadow aggro decks, among other places too in Modern. Alright, let's talk about Modern. Now, I did the same thing this week as last week due to the fact that Modern is just so hot right now. We're going to look at the top 5 cards that lost value, but we're going to look at the top 10 cards that are gaining value because there is just so much happening in the market. Modern Masters 2017 has been a huge influence on the Modern format and the market. Not only did we initially get that spike and that adjustment when we found out everything was being reprinted, but then on top of that, once players started to get their hands on these packs and it started to spark more interest in the format, demand started to skyrocket for a lot of these cards. And we're already seeing, and we have been seeing now for a week and a half, a lot of these cards that you felt like probably should have gone down a little bit lower due to the reprinting are already coming up very aggressively. Some, I would go as far as to say, are spiking right now. So let's get into it. We're going to look at the cards that lost value first. Coming at number 5, Chalice of the Void. This is the Modern Masters version, down $1.94 to $64.99. Now, this is a card that's recently spiked pretty heavily, so this is just normal stabilization coming off that spike. Number 4, Pain's Reward, down $2.27 to $3.16. This was a card that was featured as part of a budget build about a week ago, kind of a life gain deck. I expected, and I mentioned this in the video last week, usually when this happens, the cards will spike for about a week or so. A lot of players will notice the deck, they'll want to put it together. All of a sudden, certain marketplaces will start to dry up a little bit. But then once everyone realizes what happens, the marketplace rebounds a little bit, card goes back down in value. That's what you're seeing here. Number 3, Through the Breach, down $2.63 to $53.92. This card has recently spiked pretty aggressively due to the fact that it was not reprinted in Modern Masters 2017, starting to stabilize a little bit down off that spike now. Coming in at number 2, Modern Masters Tarmogoyf, down $3.21 to $109.36. This has dropped quite aggressively recently. It's starting to just stabilize, and this is kind of true, I think, of all the Tarmogoyfs other than the Future Sight version, which is a little higher. But I think all the other ones are starting to stabilize down to around the $100, $105 mark. Even the Modern Masters 2017 one has been climbing aggressively over the last week or so. And coming in at number 1, Mox Opal, down $3.62 to $56.70. This is the Modern Masters 2015 version in particular. And again, this is another card that has recently spiked very, very heavily if you've been watching the market watches. And it's starting to just snap back a little bit. That's to be expected. This will start to stabilize, I think, somewhere around the $50 mark pretty easily. All right, let's move into the cards that have gained value this week. Coming in at number 10, it's Marsh Flats. The first of the fetch lands we're going to see on the list from Modern Masters 2017 today, up $2.87 to $29. Now, we saw this last week, and we're going to continue to see this. These fetch lands, even though a lot more have been introduced into the marketplace, and more will continue to be introduced as more packs get open, the demand has just gone through the roof for these cards. The demand was already high before the product came out. However, the existence of the product has created a fever pitch demand for these cards currently. Folks who open some packs, maybe they get one of these or two of these, and they start thinking, wow, the values are down right now. I could actually maybe put playsets together, and that's what you're seeing here. People that would have never attempted to put play sets together a couple weeks back before this product dropped because the prices were just too high are now thinking that they're in the market to do it. These things are going to continue to go up. These are definitely hot cards you're going to want to watch. Coming in at number 9, Liliana of the Veil. Both versions here. Modern Masters 2017 up $3.44 to $81.33 with the Innistrad version up $3.83 to $89.31. This is another card that is rebounding very quickly from the reprint. Now, this one in some ways is even more dangerous because it's a mythic rare. So the print run of this is going to be lower than things like the fetch lands, which are rare. Secondly, this card is just such an iconic card. I mentioned this the last couple weeks, but this simply transcends the game. Does it see a lot of play? Of course it does. Modern, legacy play. This card shows up in a lot of places. However, it goes even beyond that. A lot of players just want to have a copy of this card because it's just that iconic. This is another card that's going to keep going up and rebound, I think, quicker than maybe we expected back to where it was. Coming in at number 8, Verdant Catacombs, yet another fetch land for Modern Masters 2017, up 388 to 4787. Coming in at number 7 is Mishra's Bauble, up $4.26 to $50. Now, here's the deal with this card. This is a very, very risky card to pick up at the $50 mark at this point. First off, it's been spiking extremely heavily. It is incredibly popular right now because it's in two very popular Modern decks, considering Death Shadow Aggro and Lantern Control, not to mention some others out there too. But here's the problem with the card in general. The fact of the matter is this could be reprinted probably at uncommon at almost any given time. The only issue, the only thing that holds Wizards back from just reprinting it anywhere they want is its name for flavor reasons. However, there's a lot of ways around that. I mean, we could very well be going back to Dominaria for the 25th anniversary of Magic next year, and you could see this in a standard set. Or even if you don't, this could just simply show up in a conspiracy-esque summer set that they do at some point, which you never know. This could be announced just out of the blue at any given time, and this thing would crash really hard if that were to happen. Now, I appreciate the fact there's a lot of players out there that might be playing in a Grand Prix or playing in a competitive tournament that might need these for a deck. If that's the case, then you might have to bite the bullet and pay this price for them. If you're not that player, though, I would definitely wait on this one. It might go up a little more, but I'm expecting two things. I'm expecting a snapback eventually from the huge spike it's had, and secondly, at some point, I'm expecting a reprint. Number 6, Plunge into Darkness, of $4.76 to $5.74. A couple of reasons for this. First off, this card was part of that budget deck I mentioned earlier, so that helped get a little more spotlight or attention on it. But secondly, there's some versions, this is probably the bigger reason for the spike, there are some versions of the Death Shadow deck that are running some copies of this. Coming in at number 5, Eldrazi Temple. Two versions of this one. Modern Masters 2015 up 308 to 1109. It was actually an uncommon there. And Rise of the Eldrazi at 490 to 1549. So even though this was reprinted in Modern Masters 2015 as an uncommon, and it also showed up in a dual deck not too long ago also, which those things are printed into oblivion. But even with all of that going on, this card's still $10, $15 card. Why is that? It's just seeing so much play. Colorless Eldrazi and Legacy, the modern Bant Eldrazi decks, the Eldrazi Tron decks. There's just a lot of decks trying to run this card. Coming in at number 4, Fulminator Mage, the Modern Masters 2015 version up this week $314 to $34.95, with the Shadowmoor version up $632 to $42.72. This card has been pretty hot ever since it was announced that it was not going to be in Modern Masters 2017. It's a card that's seeing a lot of play, of course, in Modern, and I do think it will at some point soon slow down and start to stabilize and maybe snap back a little bit, but at the same time, it's a very highly sought after card. Coming in at number 3, Living End, up $647 to $1581. Now, of course, there are Living End decks still being played in Modern, and they actually do have some success here and there. Every once in a while, you'll see them show up in the top 8 or what have you. However, the reason this is spiking so hard this week is due to the fact that there's a lot of speculation that if cycling cards are good enough in Amonkhet, it could propel the value of this card in formats like Modern. So this is a big leap of faith, of course, because we haven't really seen a whole lot yet from Amonkhet. But given the fact that maybe about a week ago or so you could pick this card up for under $10, a lot of people were okay taking that risk. Now, at $15 or maybe even $20 where this card could potentially get over the course of the next week or so, maybe that risk starts to become a little too much to take, quite honestly, until we see more of the cards from Amonkhet. But a few people have started to speculate on this one. Coming in at number 2, we got another fetch land, Scalding Tarn, Modern Masters 2017 version up $675 to $53.61. Coming in at number 1, Life from the Loam. Two versions here. Modern Masters up $14.77 to $29.21, with Ravnica City of Guilds up $17.54 to $32. So you probably guessed it. The reveal of the Amonkhet cycling dual lands have a lot to do with this. Sam Stoddard's article where he revealed those lands yesterday on the Mothership also contained a deck list for a Life from the Loam deck using those cards. As you could imagine, it captured a lot of attention. Now, a couple of things. 24 hours ago or so, this was probably a good speculation due to the fact that you could pick these up for $10, $15. A day later, speculating on those type of decks or that particular deck at $30 a piece is a lot riskier. That deck has to definitely put out some results once these cards come out, and we just don't know if that's going to be the case yet or not. So I don't know if I'd want to spend $30. Now, granted, if this card does do really well with the cards that are revealed coming up in Amonkhet, this could continue to go up and maybe even quite aggressively, considering we're not really sure when we will see a reprint of this. We already know that Dredge doesn't seem to be one of Wizards' favorite things anymore, so they might not have plans on reprinting this anytime in the near future. That's definitely something to keep in mind as well. But it is still a little bit of a risky pickup, I think, especially considering how sharply this increased and how quickly that happened. All right, let's move on to Legacy. Much like last week, I'm just going to look at 5 notable cards this week to save a little time since we spent so much time on Modern. Now, this week, all 5 notable cards are actually increases. There's some interesting ones here. First off, we have Hellfire from Legends, up 915 to 3348. Now, this is the first of 3 cards that I'm going to showcase today that are actually cards that I played quite extensively back in the old days in like 93, 94, 95. And because of that, there could be some interest not only among collectors that just want to pick up some of these old rare cards from some of these old sets, but also people playing 93, 94 format, because some of these cards are actually pretty good in that format. I remember back when 93, 94 was called Magic. So there's a good chance that cards like Hellfire are starting to slide into some of these decks. Now, I have not seen myself a 93, 94 deck list with Hellfire, but I just wouldn't be surprised if it got there just because it's really good with cards like Cabal Ghoul, for example. Creature from the Dark, up 647 to 1899. This is the second card I used to play extensively. And this card actually does see some 93, 94 play for sure, because this does show up in a lot of the white weenie builds. Really fun card. It's fragile, sure, as a 1/1. It only costs 3, and the drawback is when you tap it, your opponent gets to decide which of their creatures for you to take. However, a lot of decks that rely on one major creature, one big creature like control decks or so on, are very susceptible to this card. Next, we have Fluctuator, up $10.34 this week to $13. This is quite a spike, and you probably can figure out why this is fluctuating. Cycling costs you up to 2 less to play. Of course, Amonkhet is bringing back cycling, so there's a couple things you might be able to do with this card. First off, this might be really good in Commander, especially if you have some new cycling cards to play around with that are quite affordable coming out of the new set. Secondly, there is a Legacy cycling deck that actually can have some success every now and then, and there is a chance that some new cards introduced to it could make it even better. The biggest problem, though, with this card, especially if you want to pay more than, say, $10, $15 for it, that just feels very expensive to me, is the fact that there is a great sideboard card that will just shut down the whole cycling deck completely. It's called Stabilizers from Scourge. So if that deck ever did become amazing in Legacy, it'd be really easy for folks to sideboard against it. And I don't think it would be very amazing very long. So that's the risk that you would take, I think, picking up this card. But of course, at this point, a lot of folks are thinking about this card as being something that could potentially become better very soon. The next one is Living Plane. This one has really spiked hard recently, up 1958 to 177.50. A few weeks back, or maybe it was a month or two ago at this point, I remember saying that, if you can pick this card up, at that time it was much, much more affordable. If you could pick the card up, I didn't think it was a bad investment at this point. And I do know at least one person picked up a copy through one of my referral links on the Amazon affiliate store. Kudos to you, whoever that was, because that was a great pickup. This card is still spiking really, really hard. The last card I wanted to feature was Thunder Spirit from Legends, another reserve list card, up 2803 to 8633. Another card I played extensively back in the day, and it's a fantastic creature for that time period of Magic, considering that creatures were not as powerful as they are today. So when you got yourself a 2/2 first strike flyer for 3, you were usually pretty happy about that. Even though, sure, it could get lightning bolted, it actually was still very, very strong in that particular era of Magic. And because of that, I could imagine that it could cross over pretty well into 93, 94. Again, I haven't seen any deck lists specifically running it, but I feel like it could be good in a deck list there. Secondly, I think that this is just a card that a lot of collectors would just want to pick up to have, maybe even have play sets of. I think this will continue to go up, even if it does rebound a little bit temporarily off this spike. Having said that, those are the cards for today. We will be back next week, and we'll see what's happening in the market after we get another week of Amonkhet spoilers. Until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.